And we're back. It's been a little while since we've done a companion podcast. We did Game of Thrones, which was an abbreviated season, and then, True Detective before that. So it's been pretty sporadic, for these companions, but I had to come back for season 2 of Succession, the HBO original series about a rich, fucked up family full of narcissists and, I don't know, just awful overall human beings. So this is the Succession Companion Podcast, season 2. We are presented by The Disorderly. Head over to thedisorderly.com for the best in sports and entertainment, mostly entertainment these days, I believe, but I think that is still officially the tagline. And Disorderly Media on Twitter, Disorderly ENT on Facebook. And lots of movie reviews. I feel like that's the focus of things. Recently, obviously, I bring more of the TV side of things, but let's get into Succession, man. Let's get into it. So I did a companion podcast for season 1 of the show. And for those of you who caught that, it was quite the roller coaster of a season for me. I honestly wasn't a big fan of the show early on. It was mostly the pacing, I guess, to be honest. I feel like there wasn't a lot going on as far as interesting storylines. And, I was kind of worried it would end up being a show with a cool premise, but a poor execution, if that makes sense. I don't know. I actually almost abandoned the show mid-season. Not watching it. I'm a completionist, so even if the show sucked, even if I hated it, chances are I would still, once I started the season, I would still probably finish it. But I'm talking about the podcast. I was like, man, there's nothing here. What am I going to talk about every week? And I was a little worried up till week 3, episode 3, episode 4, something like that. And then that quickly went away. Because about halfway through this season, I became a full-blown fan of the show. I loved the humor, particularly with Tom and Greg, and Kendall and Greg. Actually, just Greg in every fucking scene, I guess. That nightclub party episode was amazing. The crazy finish, obviously, with Kendall causing the death of that waiter and his dad sort of bailing him out, completely switching the power dynamic in a single moment. Obviously, the entire season was building towards Kendall overthrowing his father and the kids finally seizing control of the company and all that. And in that one moment, that one mess up by Kendall, the entire dynamic switched, which I thought was a brilliant way to end the season. It was all just so well written, it was so well delivered, that I ended up basically ending the first season feeling, satisfied. Very, very satisfied with what I had just seen, both satisfied and excited for season 2, and that brings us to today. So obviously, season 2 premiere was this Sunday. So happy it's back. Now we're here. So let's just get started, I guess, by recapping where we left everybody, where we left all the characters at the end of season 1. So as I mentioned, Kendall had just killed a man accidentally, right? Like they were driving, looking for drugs, swerved off the road. The little waiter died, So he killed a man. His father had to bail him out. His father had basically thwarted the plans of a hostile takeover and maintained control of the company thanks to Kendall essentially being neutered, right? Because the only way he was going to stay out of jail for like involuntary manslaughter or whatever the charge is was to have his dad make the problem go away, and the trade-off for that was now Kendall is Logan's little bitch, basically. He's going to do whatever he can, and step 1 of that was for Kendall to flip on the hostile takeover and kind of, throw that out of the water, at least for now. You have Shiv and Tom who just made up after Shiv came clean about the affair. They went through with the wedding, they got married, and now they're on a honeymoon on some random boat, I guess. And then you've got Roman, who just watched his rocket ship project that he was overseeing the whole thing. He watched it explode on the launching pad. So he's kind of dealing with the fallout from that. And, the PR disaster, the fact that he pretty much consistently fails in every single, big, important leadership position that he's in. And then finally, Connor Roy, the oldest son from a previous marriage, he's currently trying to run for president. So, I don't know. Oh, and he's still with a prostitute that he's paying to be his girlfriend. So honestly, Logan appears to be our season 1 champion, if you had to crown one, which is not the way things started. He had the stroke. The whole thing was about how he can't handle it. Everything was kind of stacking up against him. And then, because of one tragic sort of switch, the whole power dynamic changes. Logan is on top once again, basically. But that brings us to the season 2 premiere. Let's get into it. Poor Kendall. Poor Kendall. The dude's he's basically Reek from Game of Thrones now. There's just no life left in him. He was always a little low on confidence. You could see him kind of doubting himself, and even the drug problem can maybe be pinned on the fact that he has confidence issues and self-esteem issues or whatever. But now he's basically Logan's gimp, right? He just does whatever Logan says. And it's really sad to watch. It's just so pathetic. It's just, I don't know, man. It's tough. It's tough to watch. And not to say that it's, bad. Like I enjoy the scenes that he's in, but it is a bummer for sure. And even worse, he can't tell anyone the truth about why he's acting that way, right? or why he suddenly pulled out of the hostile takeover, because the truth is that he's responsible for this kid's death, and his dad is holding that over his head. So it's a secret he has to sort of eat on his own, and you kind of see the result of that. He's a shell of a human being, basically. I don't know, man. It's tough to watch. He's basically a puppet for Logan to manipulate however he wants, and that's shitty for Kendall, good for Logan, evil for Logan, but good for Logan. And you know, as we stand right now, that takeover's not happening. Now, there was a scene in this episode where Sandy and Stewie seem to be committed to fighting the battle, stringing it out. They're not giving up on basically overthrowing Logan and taking all his assets and whatever. So that battle is going to continue. Logan seems pretty confident that he's no longer in danger. He seems like he's fully in the driver's seat. He's not thinking about Sandy and Stewie, thinks that he basically thwarted their plans, like I said. But I'm sure that's not the case, right? If we're playing the foreshadow game, there's a really good chance that Logan is underestimating how much danger he's actually in. But, you know, so far, episode 1, there's nothing really on that front yet, right? But with the rivals currently out of the picture, the big question for Logan is whether he should sell the company or push forward and name his successor. And for once, Logan seems to be at a loss here, right? Or at least that's what we're led to believe. He speaks to, his banker, his financial advisor, whoever that was, who advises him to sell before the media company is worthless, basically. They draw a comparison to Kodak's fall from prominence. Logan seems convinced that selling is the right move, and the kids all respond to the news with kind of a similar reaction, a mix of sort of disbelief and then scheming, you know, pivoting, trying to position themselves in the best spot possible to take over the company or whatever. But Logan ultimately brings his family together to discuss the prospect of selling, ultimately decides not to, decides he wants to name a successor, and unbeknownst to anybody but Logan and his daughter Shiv is to be the successor. Now, I particularly love this scene because the whole time he's like, no, this is real. And she's like, is this real? And you can see she literally has so much doubt because her dad is so manipulative. And you know, throughout the show, it's clear. You can only assume that he's been that way for her entire life, for all those kids' entire lives, that she literally can't trust. Like, he wants to name her the successor. And by the way, from an outside perspective, it makes the most sense, right? I mean, the only knock on Shiv is that she has the political situation where, you know, she's in the camp of at least a public political rival of Logan and of their media company. So that is a knock against her, and this could be a way to, you know, she has the most power over Logan and the most potential to basically upset Logan's plans for whatever, because Kendall's a dead human being, Roman is a fuck up, Connor's a crazy person. Shiv actually has a position where she can come and attack Logan and attack the company with her political sort of connections. So maybe this is a way of, you know, wiping out the one last threat, neutralizing the one last threat, which is Shiv. But I also think Shiv makes the most sense from a intellect perspective. She just seems like the most put together, the smartest strategist. She has the least amount of demons in her closet. You know, she doesn't have a drug habit. She's not, you know, a fuck up, like I said, like Rogan or Roman, I mean, or a crazy person like Connor. So she does seem like she'd be the best candidate for a successor anyway, but it is a sort of two birds with one stone situation where if Shiv is next in line, then, you know, she's going to be less likely to turn on Logan and turn on the media company as a whole, right? So you wiped out your last, or at least most obvious threat. So there's a good chance it's ulterior motives. I think with Logan, that's always the case, but I don't know. I just love this scene. I love the start of this episode. I'm very excited to see where things go. I want evolution out of Kendall. You know, I don't want him to be this sad sack guy. I want to see him regain some, I don't know, assertiveness, confidence. We see it a little bit in the preview for the upcoming episodes, or, you know, the upcoming season as a whole. I'm not really sure I don't know if the clips were from, you know, episode 2 or the rest of the season, but we do see Logan, you know, offering his opinion and pushing back a little bit and starting to regain his footing a little bit, which I hope we do see some of that. Obviously, there's always the trump card that Logan could pull and be like, hey, remember the time you killed that kid? So, like, I don't know how much power he can actually get, at least while his father's still in the picture. But I am interested about that. I am interested to see how Stewie and Sandy maneuver their way into an overthrow without Kendall. It seemed like he was a key piece the entire time. I'm curious how Shiv will navigate, you know, her former political connections. It seems like she's also sort of manipulating Tom, which she always has been, but I could see him finding out and that somehow becoming a problem as well. Shiv and Roman, who they already kind of established sort of a rivalry or a problem between the two of them when they're out talking about the water. And it's like, you know, they basically, no one trusts each other in this family at all. Rightfully so. They're all kind of backstabbers. They're all, constantly looking out for themselves and their own position and trying to climb this corporate ladder is not even the right word for it, because they have a media empire that's in their family name. So they're trying to basically carve out the best slice of money and power and all this stuff within this family, and they're doing it all with smiles on their faces and under the guise of being a loving family, which is just it's a great show. It really is. The second season ended strong. Episode 1 of this season has a lot of promise, a lot of potential. I'm excited, man. I'm excited for the rest of the show, but we'll leave it there. Obviously, this is just episode 1. We're going to dive a lot deeper into this as we go. I'll be calling back. I'll be doing my best to help you navigate the plot of the show, because it does get complicated at times. If season 1 is any indicator, we're not talking Game of Thrones, we're not talking Westworld, but it is still, it can get a little complicated, just the politics of it. So I'll do my best to, watch every episode a couple times, take notes, try to make things as clear as possible for people who are watching it once, like normal people, not taking notes. You don't have a notebook in front of you when you're watching it. I'll do my best. I'll do my best to help you guys out so you don't have to struggle through that same sort of thing. So that'll do it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please go over to disorderly.com to check out all the stuff going on there. Like I said, a lot of movie reviews lately. I'll be doing the weekly podcast there for this television companion. More to come too. I'm definitely doing Watchmen whenever that comes out. So I don't know. Is that later this year? I don't know. Whatever. We'll get into it. Disorderly Media on Twitter, Disorderly ENT on Facebook, and my name is Nick Rizner. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Rizner, NickRizner. And I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you're enjoying Succession. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I will catch you next week. Peace.